Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για την παρουσία σας, γιατί γνωρίζουμε ότι σήμερα, σύμφωνα με τους μετεωρολόγους, ήταν μια πολύ δύσκολη ημέρα, με πρωτοφανή καύσωνα, πράγμα που σημαίνει πως η παρουσία σας εδώ δείχνει πόσο εσείς θέλετε και είσαστε ήδη ευαισθητοποιημένοι στα θέματα της κλιματικής αλλαγής, με πολύ μεγάλο ενδιαφέρον, έτσι ώστε να εκπαιδεύσουμε και τα παιδιά που οι περισσότεροι από εσάς ασχολείστε με την εκπαίδευση, στο να γίνουν ενεργοί πολίτες και να αντιμετωπίσουν το πρόβλημα της κλιματικής αλλαγής, τα αποτελέσματα του οποίου τα βλέπουμε έτσι ακόμα και σήμερα. Θα προχωρήσουμε στις εργασίες του συνεδρίου. Η βασική γλώσσα του συνεδρίου θα είναι αγγλικά. Έτσι. Από εδώ και στο εξής, με εξαίρεση κάποιες ομιλίες και κάποιοι χαιρετισμοί που θα είναι στα ελληνικά, οι υπόλοιπες ομιλίες των εταίρων θα είναι στα αγγλικά. Όποιος επιθυμεί ταυτόχρονη μετάφραση μπορεί έξω να προμηθευτεί τα ειδικά ακουστικά, έτσι ώστε να μπορεί ταυτόχρονα να είτε από αγγλικά να ακούει ελληνικά, είτε από ελληνικά-αγγλικά ανάλογα. Και θα ξεκινήσουμε με τον χαιρετισμό του συνεδρίου, της ένταξης του συνεδρίου, από τον αξιότιμο δήμαρχο Ραφίνας Πικερνίου, κύριο Ευάγγελο Μπουρνού.
Good morning. Welcome to our municipality. I'm very glad where I am with you today. I don't speak so fluently in English as I wish, so I tell you some things in my language. Καλημέρα. Είμαι πολύ χαρούμενος που βρίσκεστε σε αυτό το course εκπρόσωποι από 7 χώρες, με συντονιστή τον αγαπητό Διευθυντή του Πρώτου Δημοτικού Σχολείου Σαράδη Χέλμη, για ένα θέμα που τα επόμενα χρόνια θα είναι ψηλά στην προτεραιότητα όλων μας, την κλιματική αλλαγή και το μέλλον, για το αν θα πληρωτήσουμε ένα καλύτερο περιβάλλον στα παιδιά μας, οφείλεται και θα εκπορεύεται από τα ίδια τα παιδιά. Τα παιδιά τα οποία είναι πραγματικά το μέλλον και αυτά που θα ζήσουν τα επόμενα χρόνια σε ένα περιβάλλον που το βιάσαμε βάναυσα, δημιουργώντας συνθήκες οι οποίες φτάνουν σε ακραία σημεία, χειμώνα καλοκαίρι, δημιουργώντας αλλαγές τεράστιες στην Φλωρίδα και στην Πανίδα, αλλά και στην ποιότητα ζωής του ανθρωπογενούς στοιχείου. Είμαι εδώ να ακούσω μαζί σας για αυτές τις δράσεις. Θέλω να πω ότι ο Δήμος μας έχει τη τιμή και τη χαρά να είναι εδώ και χρόνια μέλος του Ευρωπαϊκού Συμφώνου Δημάρχων για τη μείωση εκπομπών διοξειδίου του άνθρακα, και κάθε δράση μας κοιτάζει προς αυτή την κατεύθυνση. Μια δράση που έχω τη χαρά να ανακοινώσω από αυτό το βήμα είναι ότι το καλοκαίρι που έρχεται όλα τα σχολικά συγκροτήματα θα βαφτούν με μπογιά, η οποία θα δεσμεύει ρήπους από την ατμόσφαιρα μέσω μιας βιοκατάλυσης που θα γίνεται, φωτοκατάλυσης πιο σωστά, ώστε πραγματικά το περιβάλλον που ζουν τα παιδιά στο δεύτερο λιμάνι της χώρας, με μια τεράστια κίνηση, να έχει λιγότερους ρήπους. Με χαρά θα σας ακούσω. Ευχαριστώ πολύ για όλη την προσπάθειά σας.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Βοηθός και αρρωγός μας είναι η τεχνολογία και ανυπομονούμε να βάλουμε μπρος τέτοια σχέδια που πραγματικά θα βοηθήσουν το περιβάλλον. Θα ακολουθήσει χαιρετισμός από τον Δημοτικό Σύμβουλο κύριο Ανδρέα Βασιλοπούλου.
Good morning, everybody. It's very nice to have you in our city, in our Rafina Vicaire municipality, and it's a great pleasure. And really, I am glad that this conference is being organized by students that have been through all the process, the organization process of the conference. We all know how difficult and how tough is the preparation and all the steps we have to take in advance of a conference. So I am very happy that students are getting familiar with this process. I would like to thank and congratulate also the teachers of the school for the support, and Mr. Helmis for his assistance, but also the participants from the 7 countries that participate in this project to be here with us and exchange ideas, exchange the way that we can handle the climate change and address to the people, to the public, solutions about a problem that is getting bigger every year. I will stay here to learn from you, to understand what you have done in this project and what are the next steps. And I am very anxious to see the next level of this project, and why not apply for a continuation of a project like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to call Dr. Vera Borilla, Head of the Department of Environmental Education, Directorate of Eastern Attica.
Although I've worn my high-heeled shoes today, I think I'm not... Can you see me? Okay, let me see if I can put the computer a little bit aside. Okay. Good morning to all of you, especially to the colleagues from Europe. It's so nice to be in this multicultural company today. Thank you, Saradis, for the invitation. I've been invited here today to set the context for the conference and make the bridge between climate change and education. So we're going to deal with some terms that, if you have dealt with the issue, I'm sure will be very well known to you. But let me start with the very beginner's notions. And then we're going to talk about solutions and deal with the qualitative characteristics of climate change education. So what exactly is climate change? Let's watch a video from TED Education, which explains in very few words. Videos like this before, but here's a big scene. Okay. Anyone can make one of these videos in a few minutes. Okay. There are also Greek subtitles that you cannot watch.
To understand climate change, think of the game Tetris. To understand climate change, think of the game Tetris. For eons, Earth has played a version of this game with blocks of carbon. They enter the atmosphere as carbon dioxide.
And also be informed about the other side of the coin. Other skills have to do with the ability to take action, with the ability to estimate my ecological footprint and be able to take action to decrease it in order to cause personal and social change. For example, taking part in volunteering works or in youth activism movements. So you can see Greta Thunberg in this photograph, that famous girl, who played a very important role in raising awareness in young generation. She has actually become a living legend, being the hero even of children's literature books. As you can see, I've brought some examples here. Also, lending her name to very interesting educational projects. Let me finish my presentation. I'm going to refer to a future initiative to raise awareness. It's called Running Out of Time Relay, and it's going to be a relay. A relay is running, holding a baton, and carrying the message from one person to the other. Let me show you the route. This relay will start at the end of September in Glasgow, Scotland, which was the city which hosted COP26. That's the International Conference on Climate Change. It's going to start from Glasgow, and it's going to travel by runners, cyclists, and sailors, crossing Europe and ending up to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, which is the city that's going to host COP27 in November 2022. Sorry. So, this will be an event where we want all schools to participate, especially the schools that are on the road, but all schools can take part in virtual relays and actual actions in their school grounds. In Greece, it's going to enter from Albania, go all the way down to Athens, from Marathon Lake, passing by the avenue in Rafina, and end up, go by the Acropolis and end up in Flisfos Marina to give the baton to a sailing ship, to a sailing boat. So please keep it in mind, and I invite you to take part in this initiative, since it's going to be very close to your area, and I hope even our colleagues from Europe will be close to areas that the baton will pass by. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and all the best to the project that you undertake to think green. Thank you.
Now I'm going to present the general idea behind this fantastic project, the GRETA project, and the philosophy and behind this, and what we planned and what we realized. As Vera Bolida said earlier, climate change is here. As its impact intensifies over time, it is the children and young people of today who will face the worst effects. But far from being passive victims, young people all over the world have begun to fight back on a scale never seen before. Take Greta Thunberg, for example. In 2018, then 15-year-old from Sweden sparked a global movement of school-age students demanding greater action from governments to fight climate change. Now, millions are marching to demonstrate their support. Whether through education, technology, science, or law, young people, far and wide, are tapping into their skills to speak up for climate change and climate action. While Greta might be the first name to come in mind, she's not the only young activist who is promoting climate awareness. Leseni Mutunkei, 15, he's from Kenya. He has combined his look of nature and football, and so for every goal he scores, he plants a tree, giving birth to the Trees for Goal campaign in Kenya to combat deforestation. School communities and football teams in his region have signed up to support his campaign. Ella and Caitlin McEwen, aged 7 and 9 from the UK, created a petition which has collected over 400,000 signatures asking fast food restaurants to stop putting plastic toys in kids' meals. Since this petition in September 2019, Burger King have stopped including plastic toys in their meals. Lily Patch, 11, from the Netherlands, has been running a litter-picking campaign since she was 7 years old. She is a child ambassador of the Plastic Pollution Coalition, and she strikes every Friday for climate change. Leah Namugwera, 14, from Uganda, and Holly Gillibrand, 13, from Scotland, also strike every Friday to raise awareness of climate change among their governments. These examples show us that in today's social media environment, where young digital natives thrive, individuals who never traditionally had a platform to reach multinational corporations or to influence policy now have that platform. When we look at these young people, they may be the policy makers of tomorrow, but they can be the policy influencers of today, even at that young age. The challenge for educators is to support the young people to identify and reform their message and to find their voice in the fight against climate change. So, we thought that if these children managed to change the environmental policy, not only of their countries, and environmental practices of big industries, but also of the whole world, can you imagine if we educate young people throughout Europe to be active citizens for the environment, what huge impact that would make for our world. So, through the development of a suite of 42 web quests resources, teachers and pupils are supported to increase their knowledge of climate issues and to identify changes that can be made that will have a direct and positive impact on the environment. The GRETA project also supports primary school teachers, school leaders, and parents to take a responsibility and raise their awareness of climate change through targeted educational materials. Finally, the GRETA project aims at building a whole school program that will engage primary school leaders and teachers, pupils and parents in raising climate change awareness and taking climate action. The partner institutions that work toward the realization of these objectives are the following. The first primary school of Rafina, which is represented by me and the colleagues that we're going to talk later on, Istituto Comprensivo Don Milani from Italy, Spectrum Research Center from Ireland, Aklub Centrum from Czech Republic, Skill Elevation from Germany, Cardet from Cyprus, and University of Pitești from Romania. So what we created, what we did. First of all, we created a compendium of climate change challenges web-based for pupils. These learning resources are developed at an introductory level for pupils aged 8 to 10 and at advanced levels for pupils aged 10 to 12. More details about web quests will be given by Jennifer Nolan from the SRC. We created a CPD program, a continuing professional development program, which comprises of 50 hours of training and resources for primary school teachers so that they can increase their knowledge of the climate crisis, but also so that they can develop their pedagogic and digital skills to create their own WebQuest resources and challenge-based learning resources that can be applied to a variety of curriculum areas and topics. Nicoleta Pantella from Cyprus will give you more details on the CPD we developed. Then there are the digital resources to increase climate literacy for parents. These resources comprise of short instructional videos, tip sheets and evaluation exercises that teach parents about the link between household consumption and climate change and give examples of how they can reduce the carbon footprint of their household. The aim of the resources is to highlight key topics in the climate crisis to parents, to raise their awareness about the climate anxiety that faces any children and young people today, and to make them aware of the power of the youth movement to address climate change. More details of this output of the GRETA project will be given by Emma Crook from FHB. Then we organized, all partners throughout Europe organized sorry, I had to turn it off. We organized the learning and training event under the name of Taking the GRETA Challenge. It is a CBD training for primary school teachers. The learning and training event is a 3-day seminar for teachers, originally planned to be held for 3 days in Nicosia in Cyprus, hosted by Cardet in January 2022. The CPD training program comprises of a total of 50 hours, as I told you before, and the structure of the program is as follows. The first day, we introduce teachers to climate education. The second day, we present them with the challenge-based learning in the classroom. And the third day, we present the teachers with the challenge-based learning resources. It aims at increasing teacher knowledge of the climate crisis, but also helping teachers to develop their pedagogic and digital skills to create their own web-based resources and challenge-based learning resources to be applied to a variety of curriculum areas and topics. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this course was held online during 9, 10, and 11 of March. And then all partners organized the Eco Days of the Future. This is a series of local national seminars and events hosted to present the GRETA project outputs and materials to key local and regional stakeholders. We present the showcase of what we created, and we popularized the whole school approach for raising awareness about climate change in primary schools. And what we're presenting today is the GRETA Final Conference. We present our project, the objectives, results, and final outputs to the wider public. And some closing remarks about the innovation aspect of the GRETA project. Teaching primary school teachers how to design, develop, and evaluate a web quest can therefore be regarded as a significant innovation in this field. Web quest challenges allow pupils to learn about climate change in an engaging and authentic way, to interpret complex problems and distill them down so that they mean something in the context of their own lives. It proposes also, the GRETA project, the adoption of a whole school approach to addressing climate change by providing educational resources not only for school teachers, leaders and pupils, but also for parents. Thank you for your attention. And now I'm going to ask Nicoletta. No, it's Jennifer. No? To present the Compendium of Climate Change Challenges web quest for pupils.
So good morning, everybody. I'll just stand over here. My name is Jennifer Nolan, and I am a partner in the project. I represent Spectrum Research Centre from Ireland, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here to talk to you a little bit about one of the packages of supports or training supports that we delivered as part of the project. We completed a compendium or a library of web quest challenges, and really I just want to talk to you a little bit about why we chose web quests, and then what we actually delivered, and then a little bit of feedback from the students that actually worked with them over the last number of months. I promise to talk slowly because apparently I speak very quickly. So I'm trying my absolute best to speak slowly. But what I will say is it was very interesting listening to Vera's presentation about some of the ways in which young people can be engaged and should be engaged in considering and when we teach them about the climate challenge, because what we managed to do by coincidence or design in the GRETA project was a lot of what was recommended in terms of using web quests as a way to really capture the imagination of young people. And why we picked web quests is that they very much pose a challenge, but there's no predefined solution. It's up to the young people themselves to think of a challenge or face the challenge, do some research and come up with different solutions. And as Saranta says, solutions that fit their local context, their life, the circumstance where they live, they play, and they go to school. And the results of the web quests that we implemented in the schools really showed the different levels of creativity and imagination that students had. And that's through the posters they created, the campaigns they developed, the stories they told. They were all completely different depending on the group of students that we worked with and engaged with. And that was really, really beautiful to see. Because often in school, there's a purpose or there's a stated aim that they have to learn according to a particular outcome, and the results are always the same. So when we gave them a platform to look at a challenge, the level of creativity and variance and diversity in the solutions they came up with was really, really encouraging, I think, because this is the generation now who are going to have to respond probably more so than we ever have in terms of addressing the climate challenge. So as Saranta says, we have put together a library of web quests. For students aged between 8 to 10 years, we looked at 3 topics in particular. We tried to make sure that the web quests themselves were simple and age appropriate. And we covered topics as follows. So Make Earth Cool Again, we talked about and we introduced the concept of global warming. And we also looked at the impact that has on habitats both within their own country but also across the world, and the impact on ecosystems. So in a way, we were able to introduce quite complex terms and science in a very simple and user-friendly way. We then looked at We Are What We Breathe, and this was an opportunity to introduce air pollution and to look at some of the causes of air pollution and the impact that that can have in our own countries, but also on our own health. And then we looked at fossil fuels. So again, how they contribute to global warming, but also it was an opportunity to explore and introduce other types of energy around renewables and the pros and cons of those. And really what we were trying to do for the students was get them to understand these concepts and then look at ways in which their school community, their family, their friends, and even they themselves as a group of classmates could respond to some of these challenges. For students aged between 10 to 12, we introduced advanced web quests, and by that there was just extra tasks for them to do. The subjects were maybe a little bit more complicated, and we created a series under these 3 headings. So My Carbon Budget got students to actually measure their carbon footprint and to consider alternative ways in which they could reduce that carbon footprint, be it on their way to school, how they commuted to school, but also how they planned and implemented family activities. We looked at Bruised, Not Broken. We tried to address topics around fast fashion and this throwaway culture that people have, that if something is slightly damaged or it's a little bit old, that they want the new next shiny thing. So we tried to look a little bit around how we get them to consider upcycling, donating, trading with their classmates if they wanted to change a toy or a gadget or a game or whatever the technology might be. And then the final topic that we looked at was food miles. So we introduced concepts around food waste. Often the food waste was in their lunchbox. So we looked at the banana, where did the banana come from, and maybe if that banana lasted the whole week, all of the energy and the waste that was associated with that. So they are the collection of web quests that we developed, and how we did it, or just the structure or the stages in the web quest first, sorry. Each web quest follows a very, very similar structure. So for teachers and students, once they were exposed to one, they then became comfortable with this as a methodology or an approach in terms of learning. So the first stage in the web quest is the introduction. So it very much tries to capture the imagination, it sets the challenge, it presents the scenario. So this was our opportunity to, in a very simple way, introduce the topic and to give some statistics or data to pose the problem as to what the web quest challenge it would take on. We then set out the task for the student. So what did we ultimately want them to do at the end? And in some cases that might be to create a poster, an awareness campaign. In some cases it was to create some poetry, to do a little bit of drama, a role play. So the level of task reflected the age of the students, and you'll see a difference between the introductory and the advanced tasks. So for the older students from 10 to 12, they're a little bit more complicated. They might be a little bit more technology-based, whereas with the younger students, they could be done kind of arts and crafts style. We then gave out a process, so very simple instructions for the students and the teachers, step by step. Again, the steps, we tried to keep them simple, age-appropriate, free of jargon. If we used any big words, they were explained so that the students knew what to do. And then we gave them the resources. So we encouraged them to undertake research, to appraise that research, but to start the process, we gave them access to all of the digital or the web links that they would need. We got some excellent feedback when we tested the web quests initially, just about the types of resources and the length of the resources. So that was something we really had to bear in mind when we were finalising and putting together the final package. And then at the very end, there's an opportunity for the students to present the results of their task and then to reflect on the process itself. So did they enjoy it? What did they learn? And then also there are set learning outcomes from a teacher's point of view that they get to measure those. So how we set up and we developed the compendiums, I would say one of the key innovations or building on this idea of a whole school approach is that in each of the countries we set up an in-school committee. And this was really, really important for the design of all of the resources for the GRETA project. Because what we really wanted as we developed the resources to get the input from the teachers, the parents and the students. So all 7 partners set up an in-school committee. As the leader of this package of supports, we set out, SRC set out guidelines. They were shared with the in-school committees, and then the partners created the very first web quest on any of the topics of the 6. And then we tested that with the committees. So this is where we got the feedback that some of our tasks were too long. They didn't fit to the school cycle. So obviously if there's a class session for 40 minutes, well then it needs to be possible for the teacher and the students to complete the tasks. Some of the videos were 30 minutes. I don't know any young person who watches anything for more than 10 seconds. So therefore we had to make sure all our videos were under 30 seconds or 90 seconds I think is the longest. And then also some of the sources we had used were quite highbrow. So we then had to look at more age appropriate and student friendly resources when we were recommending those. So the testing, we learned a huge amount when we tested the first round of web quests, and then that gave us the confidence then as a partner working together to then go and develop the other web quests. Now I have 36, but it's actually 42, so sorry about that. It's the Greek, I forgot we have two partners from Cyprus and Greece. So we ended up with 42 web quests, and I think what's really, really good about that is that we have our 6 topics, but for each topic we have 7 web quests in all of the languages. So if you don't like the web quest for your own country, you have an opportunity to look at 6 other alternatives. Or also, if the students are really interested in a topic, you can delve deeper and deeper into that topic because you've lots of resources available. And then one of the feedbacks we got was that it would be useful if we had a kind of a media introduction. So for each of the 6 topics for the web quest, we have short little videos of about 2 minutes that introduce the topic. So very similar to the video that we saw in Vera's presentation about explaining climate change, we're looking at we have a small video in each of the languages that explains the six topics of the web quests. So I think it's important to say that all of the resources, all 42, not 36, are available in Greek, English, Italian, Romanian, German, and Czech, and they're for students aged between 8 to 12 years of age. They're all free and available to use, and I suppose we actively encourage and want people to use them, and they're available on the GRETA project, so gretaproject.org. And I just want to finish from some, I suppose, feedback from the students that we tested them with in Ireland. So I have 4 little quotes. One was, I love doing the web quests, especially making the earth cool again. That was my favourite. And here's an example of their poster. We should make climate change a topic every week in our school to make sure that we get the message out there. I found it really cool seeing how everybody developed their poster and to be involved in the discussions on climate change. And I want to try and make a difference at home with my family now for climate change after completing this workshop. I think one of the things that really encouraged us and surprised us was the level and the quality of engagement that we had with students. It was really excellent. They are very concerned and interested in the planet and the future of the planet. So they're primed and they're ready to do more. And the web quests were a great way for them to work in a team, to be creative and to problem solve. And it fit within both the curriculum of the school and the time for the school. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, Nicoletta Pandella from Cyprus is going to present the continual development, professional development course that we developed.
So now I think it's better. Okay, beginning with the aim of the program, the training is targeted to primary school educators. It focuses on equipping educators with the necessary theoretical and practical knowledge to address climate change in the classroom. And the program serves as a basis to support students to act against climate change and realize various climate actions. The content of the training program is a total of 50 hours of learning and divided into 2 parts. 21 hours of face-to-face learning, which was prepared by CARDET. And based on this content, the University of Pitești from Romania produced the material for the self-directed learning, equaling to 29 hours of self-directed learning. The training program consists of the following 3 modules. Module 1 is an introduction to climate change. Module 2 it's entitled Challenge-Based Learning in the Classroom. And Module 3 is developing challenge-based learning resources. Each module also has separate units we're going to explore right after. The first module is an introduction to climate change. And specifically, Unit 1 focuses on climate change and its environmental impact. Unit 2 discusses the role of education in addressing climate change. And Unit 3 introduces the web quest resources. In Unit 1, we firstly identify the difference between weather and climate and define the terms global warming and climate change. We then provide evidence how temperature changed over time and how this contributed to the rapid change of climate. As we can all understand the importance of education in creating social change and promoting positive behaviors, Unit 2 focuses exactly on that. We argue how education can address climate change. We also investigate how the Sustainable Development Goals can be used as a tool to teach climate change in education, and that can help combat the urgent environmental, political, economic challenges our world faces. We finally provide adaptation measures to reduce vulnerability to the effects of climate change. Unit 3, familiarize educators with the WebQuest resources. We specifically focus on what the WebQuest is and its main characteristics, as well as why they can support learning about climate change. This unit also gives an overview of the six WebQuest categories in the context of the GRETA project that also Jennifer presented before. And all these categories deal with main environmental issues. The second module is entitled Challenge-Based Learning in the Classroom and present how WebQuests are led by this approach. In particular, Unit 1 is an introduction to the pedagogical approach of challenge-based learning. Unit 2 showcases how the WebQuest as challenge-based resources can be integrated in a lesson plan to be taught in the classroom. And Unit 3 uses the lesson plan canvas to create WebQuest resources. So in Unit 1, we define challenge-based learning approach and describe the process it follows. The 3 steps are engage, investigate, and act. As challenge-based learning is considered a student-centered approach, we clarify educators' role as well as students' role. We also discuss the importance of documenting throughout the learning process, and by documenting we mean keeping photos, videos, and any written material, so students can reflect on that. And finally, we explain why WebQuests are challenge-based resources. In Unit 2, we present the main structure of a WebQuest, and as you can see here, we start with an introduction, then it's the task that students should carry out, the process, the evaluation, and at the end, the conclusion. Unit 3 familiarizes educators with the lesson plan canvas, which is based on the business model canvas, and aims to describe the rationale of a certain lesson plan. Finally, Module 3, supports educators on how to develop interactive challenge-based learning resources. More specifically, Unit 1 provides the theoretical and practical guidance for the development of challenge-based WebQuest resources. Unit 2 is an introduction to interactive platforms and how these platforms can be integrated into the teaching process. And the final evaluation activity was the last part of the training. In Unit 1, educators review the GRETA WebQuests and then they complete the lesson plan canvas and develop their own climate challenges. In Unit 2, educators are prompted to share best practices, including tools or platforms they use in the classroom. This unit also presents 10 interactive platforms that could be integrated into a WebQuest lesson plan to engage students. Among these tools are the Powtoon tool, which is a video creator tool, Kahoot, a game-based learning platform that can be used to create, share, and play games and quizzes, and the learningapps.org, a Web 2.0 application that supports the development of interactive modules. The final evaluation activity aims at encouraging educators to apply the acquired knowledge, and therefore they can recall the lesson plan canvas that I presented earlier, and so use that tool to structure their main idea of the WebQuest resource. So closing, here you can see an overview of the training that was held online. In particularly, the pilot implementation of the Continuing Professional Development Training Program was held on the 9th, 10th, and 11th of March. CARDET coordinated this effort with all partners contributing. And more specifically, the three-day training event was expected to take place in Cyprus. However, due to the pandemic, we decided to transfer it online. So we were more than pleased that a total of 43 teachers from Greece, Italy, Czech, Cyprus, Ireland, Romania, and Germany attended the training. They were able to go through the material as well as practice some of the activities that we discuss, as well as participate in collaborative activities that accompany the content. And here you can also see some of the best moments of the online training. So thank you very much for your attention.
Now, Emma Crook from FHB will present the digital resources to increase climate literacy for parents.
Hi everyone, my name's Emma and I work for an organisation in Berlin called Skills Elevation FHB. And I'm going to present IO3, which are the digital resources to increase climate literacy for parents. So first of all, we're going to talk about what climate literacy is. So climate literacy is the ability to understand your influence on the climate and the climate's influence on you and society in general. So we want to talk about why parents need climate literacy anyway. And according to many statistics, it is clear that the carbon footprint accumulated in the household is very high. So, as you can see here, research conducted by Time for Change. Did that change? Yes. Time for Change, the average person in an industrialized country has a carbon footprint of 11 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And the average four-person family household produces almost 37,000 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions each year. And household consumption contributes to 72% of global greenhouse gas emissions, meaning that, of course, household behaviour is an essential component in climate policies. Also, parents need these resources to increase their climate literacy because they are the primary educators for their children. So, of course, teachers play a huge role in their education, but parents are children's role models as they're growing up, and they learn a lot from them, and they also have an important role in addressing their children's fear and anxiety of it. So the goal of GRETA IO3 resources is to educate parents on climate issues so that they can ultimately reduce their household consumption, make behavioural changes, and help reduce global carbon emissions. Okay, we're going to take a look at the topics that we addressed in these IO3 resources. So altogether we have a total of 12 topics. 6 were developed by us in Germany, Skills Elevation FHB, and the other 6 were developed by the organisation from the Czech Republic, ACLUB. So, each of the topics, let's go through them. So, topic 1, what is climate change? Topic 2, impact of climate change on future generations. Topic 3, why climate change begins at home. 4, calculating your carbon footprint. 5, how to reduce your carbon footprint from transportation. 6, top tips to reduce your carbon footprint at home, cooking. 7, how to reduce your carbon footprint from clothes. 8, top tips to reduce your carbon footprint at home from waste and recycling. 9, how to reduce the carbon footprint from household energy consumption. 10, how to preserve local ecosystems. And 11 addresses what climate anxiety is. And 12, this topic advises parents on how they can talk to their children about climate change. So under each of these topics, there are learning resources included in each. Under each topic, there is an explainer video, and this video introduces the topic. And then there is a task or an activity that parents can do together with their children. So this can be a worksheet, a quiz, or practical activities. And there are also tip sheets for parents included at the end of the resource. So it's advice for parents on actions they can take to make positive changes at home or in their local community. Am I talking too fast? Oh, okay. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some of the resources. So we're going to first take a look at the video, an example of a video under the topic reducing your carbon footprint from cooking.
Hello, and welcome to the GRETA Project. In this video, we will explore the top tips to reduce your carbon footprint at home whilst cooking. Let's get started. We can all contribute to reducing our carbon footprint by just following a couple of measures we can take today. Keep the refrigerator and freezer clean. A refrigerator with ice in the walls needs more power to cool than a clean one, although it may seem otherwise. Also, the bags in which we pack the food hinder the proper cooling process. A clean refrigerator is more efficient and needs less power to cool as much as an neglected refrigerator. Recycling. You can separate materials for proper recycling. Organic waste, paper and cardboard, glass, used oil, and yes, oil is also recycled in some countries. Reduce the consumption of meat and meat byproducts. Beef and lamb are the meats with the largest carbon footprint. Diets low in these types of meats can reduce the carbon footprint by up to 50%. Consume local food. Transporting food from other parts also leaves a carbon footprint. Consume local products. You only have to look at the food label to know its origin. Shop without plastic bags. Reduce the consumption of plastic at the supermarket using reusable bags. You can also say no to food wrapped in plastic for no apparent reason. Avoiding waste. Food loss and waste are responsible for 8% of greenhouse gas emissions. Plan meals to buy only what you need. You can also choose ugly fruits and vegetables. By following these tips, you can reduce your carbon footprint and contribute to some climate change. Congratulations on completing this lesson. Today we have learned a few tips to reduce your carbon footprint at home when cooking. For more activities and resources related to climate change awareness, please visit the GRETA Project website.
Okay, so that's an example of one of the explainer videos that we developed. So as you can all see, it's very, very short because we wanted to develop resources for parents that were very busy, so we wanted to keep the videos quite short. Okay, so now we're going to look at a few examples of the activities we've developed. I don't know if everyone can see the text, it might be a bit blurry. But as I said, we developed quizzes, practical activities, and this is an example of a quiz that we developed where parents and children have to calculate their carbon footprint. Obviously, this is on a simpler scale, so they can see from this what gives off more of a carbon footprint than other actions. So for example, there's a question here, how often do you eat meat? If they say every day, that's 20 points. If they say never, it's 0 points, and so on. So then at the end, they add up their points, and then it will give them advice. It will give them their rough carbon footprint, and will say, you should implement more climate-friendly actions, and so on. Okay, so that's an example of one. Here's an example of another quiz that we developed, and it is under the topic of waste and recycling. So the children, along with the parents, have to match the item to which bin it belongs to. So obviously, Yeah, so there's a general waste, glass, paper, compost, and plastic. So that's just a really short quiz that they can do together. And then, like I said, we developed some practical activities that they can do together. Here is an example of one where the children and parents will clean their overcrowded closet and will donate their clothes to a charity. And this is under the topic of reducing carbon footprint from clothes. And lastly, like I said, we developed tip sheets for parents. So this is at the end of the resource, and it's just extra advice for parents. So here's an example of 3 tips that we provided parents with. Tip 1, support organizations that help prevent animal extinction. And then we gave examples of these organizations. And then tip 2, they can participate in Fridays for Future with their children, which will show them that it is an issue that needs direct attention. And tip 3, set up a carpool group in your community. All of these resources are available on our website, and thank you for listening.